Hello again everybody, a very warm welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a look at the upcoming PMDG 737-800 for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Really exciting release and there are a lot of people in the community looking forward to it. So very excited, very honoured to be able to offer you guys this preview, and thanks to PMDG for sending it over for me to take a look as well. Really looking forward to this, having very much enjoyed the 700 and the 600 already. If you're new to the channel, welcome on board. Please hit the subscribe button, give us a like, and of course share your thoughts in the comments below. As I'm sure you've already noticed, it's much longer than the 700 variant, and in fact from this outside drone view as we pan around, it looks really long in comparison, a lot longer in fact. If we compare this then against the 600 and 700 variants, the 800 is around 10 meters longer in length. This 800 variant has a maximum takeoff weight, usually around 79,000 kilograms, compared to that of the 700, which is about 70,000, and the 600 around 63,100 kilos. The 800 can carry around 189 passengers in a single class config, compared to 171 in the 700 and 132 in the dinky 600 variant as well. And to compare the zero fuel weights, the 600 variant we're looking at 51,500 kilograms roughly, 54,600 kilos for the 700 variant, and what seems like a huge 61,690 kilograms for the 800 variant. Maximum payload comparison: the 600 14,380 kilograms, the 700 16,500 kilograms, and 20,540 kilograms roughly for the 800. Now of course all these weights are dependent on the airline spec, the configuration of the cabins and all that sort of stuff as well, so it might vary based on which aircraft you have. On release it's going to have a whole host of liveries available, including the Ryanair livery here, some Scandinavian Air Service liveries, Southwest, American, Delta, United, and lots more as well. And I'm sure in no time there are going to be loads of awesome freeware liveries available on various sites like flysim.to for us to go and enjoy as well. We're going to take this for a little spin from this fantastic Pirate Devco Belfast, one of the finest sceneries we've seen in a little while, over to Maka Simulations Manchester Airport. Flight time of around 40 minutes or so roughly, and a cruise of around flight level 250 as we explore the different features and we talk about some of the things we've got to consider for this slightly longer variant of the Boeing 737. So if we move into the flight deck then, for the first time on board this 800 variant, it's pretty much similar to what we've already been accustomed to, used to, in the 600 and the 700 versions. We've got all the usual settings available to choose from, lots of different variable options inside the FMS, including the new pressurization panel, but at the very top here you'll notice we've got a new air conditioning system with voice recorder switches, various different air temperature settings between different parts of the aircraft, and all that sort of thing as well. So it's well worth having a good explore around the aeroplane. And of course we have the new window blinds. It is an option, page 16 in one of the FMS settings here, and it gives us this fantastic sliding window shade system, which is very, very good. You may have noticed this on the outside of the aircraft as we panned around in drone camera mode. You could see it from the outside looking in, which is also quite nice to see, but it does very well at cleaning away a lot of that bright light. The rest of it is very similar to that of the variants that we've been enjoying already for the last couple of months. You'll notice the V-speeds are a lot higher on board the 800s, and that's because naturally we're a much heavier aeroplane as well. So in this instance for today, our V-speeds are 139 knots for V1, rotating at 140, V2 at 146 knots, with a gross weight of 65.2 tons. Trim, a nice 5.61. and we can set all of this as we would do normally, and effectively you would configure your aircraft ready for your flight ahead based on where you're going, what sort of airline you might be trying to simulate for the day as well. So make sure all our pumps are on, we're going to turn our anti-collision lights on, we're going to make sure the packs are off for engine start as well, and we're waiting for the dispatcher. We're using GSX today on the 737-800s, though it does need a profile tweaking for it. I'm sure that will come in due course. First pushback in the 737-800 for me. Really looking forward to this. I've not test flown it. This is a preview that I'm recording for the first time as we explore the aeroplane. So let's get the engine started. That's all ready to go. We're going to go ignition mode to continuous for engine 2. And we're going to watch the N2 rise. Engines are started. Looking really good. Looking a lot longer as well. So from here, we're going to use some of the external views I've created to extend to flap 5. And begin our taxi. Flight control checks. Now, being a longer aircraft, one of the considerations here is making sure that we don't tail strike the aeroplane when we do rotate. So it's going to be something we're going to have to be mindful of. The 600, of course, a lot shorter. The 700, a little bit longer than that. We don't really need to think about that too much because as we're rotating, it's got that really nice tendency to just pick itself off the runway. So that risk of tail strike is a little bit less than it is with this. So it's one of the things we need to actively consider whilst rotating during the takeoff roll here. Now what I've done is I've configured for a flight that's roughly similar to the loading that I would have in the 700 by means of percentage. And it'll be interesting to see as we take off into this really bright low light. Good grief. It'll be interesting to see how the aircraft performs. So we're going to depart with a bit of a D rate. We're going to set engine thrust to 40% and 1 at least, roughly, for the time being. We're going to disable the brakes and we're going to begin our parking roll. Engine T's P's are in the green. And stable, toga. Slightly more muted than the 700 because we're further away from the engines. Remember, prevent a tail strike. Rotate.
Positive rate of climb.
Gear up. And we can watch the takeoff roll from the outside. Using Sky Dolly for the replay, so it could be a little buggy using external program. Going to be rotating any second. Here we go. Looking for the tail strike. Look at that, really close there. You've got to be very careful. And there's that gear animation as well, looking fantastic. Back into the flight deck. We can go to CMD-A engage. Still climbing away. Activating VNAV as well. So back in the flight deck, we can go through all of our after departure checks, through our flap retraction speeds, turning off our auto brake, and making our way to wherever it is that we're going to be heading to. For this particular departure out of Belfast, we end up going direct to Lisbon most often. So here we are, climb out of Belfast. And for those of you who have been waiting for the PMDG 737-800 for Microsoft Flight Simulator, I can tell you now it's absolutely going to be worth the wait. I'm in no doubt as well that the skies of VATSIM are going to be full of 738s in no time, with everybody getting onto the network and enjoying it as well, making the most of this experience. You certainly notice the fact that it's a bit heavier and longer. Very, very aware of the extended length and the risk of tail strikes. The rotation we did on takeoff there is probably the absolute maximum you could get away with without having too many problems too. So something to bear in mind. You've got to always remember that, and it will be the same on the flare as well. If you come in and you lose too much speed in the flare and you're trying to hold off for that butter, you're going to get a tail strike. So land accurate, fly well, rotate nicely, and you'll be really, really enjoying this. I mean, look at the wing view there. It's absolutely remarkable. As always, all the links will be in the description for the video. They'll take you to the PMDG website, the MSFS product page. When it does get released, you'll see it appear there. And of course, we'll discuss it, and the whole community will know very quickly when it does release. One thing that I will absolutely recommend is downloading something like VAS Airplane Toolbox. You can get it on the X-Plane forum. I'll put a link again to it in the description. And what it does, I've been using it a lot with the 737-600 and the 700 variants. It allows you to add in your departures and your landing approaches, your weights, etc., and the METARs to give you a landing performance or takeoff performance calculation with your D rates and all that sort of stuff. Really, really useful bit of kit, and it's freeware too. So I'll put the link in the description down below for that. You can see for this very short hop, we've got top of climb, then very shortly after that, about 20 nautical miles after that, top of descent into Manchester. What we're expecting from our takeoff performance is a planned landing weight of around 62.7 tons, flap 30, a landing pressurization panel altitude of 300 feet, and an approach speed much, much faster than the 737-700. Approach speed of roughly 150 knots. So if we put this data into here, and we add in 62.8 roughly, you can see there for flap 30 it wants an approach speed of 145 knots. So we add 150 to bring us into Manchester's runway 23 right on the ILS. We've pre-programmed it there already, 1095 and a course of 232, so let's get that ready, and we're going to follow all the same rules that I've covered in the various tutorials for the 737. Now, for those of you who like to fly at night, as we descend into Manchester, wound the time forward a little bit, you can now swivel the lights above each of the pilots' heads to offer you dynamic lighting based on your personal preference, and depending on where in fact you want the light. So a really incredible feature, dynamic lighting there. You can see it if we move backwards in fact to really demonstrate this. You can see how it moves around the flight deck and offers varying different degrees of lighting. So you can light up the displays a little bit more if you want to, or indeed move it right across to the center pedestal. And you can tweak this lighting to exactly where you want it and how bright you want it. It's a fantastic feature which is available. And of course, the sunsets in Microsoft Flight Simulator are quite remarkable, so it would be remiss of us not to throw it into this video and show you guys the 737-800 with a really powerful sunset within MSFS. At the moment we're descending with a bit of flight detent. We need a bit of drag to assist us on the way down. And we can see the emissives of the strobes in fact starting to bounce off the cloud as well as we are about to hit the cloud tops. Just going to vector slightly left to 080 degrees, and what that's going to do is effectively show you the responsiveness of the aircraft. Now, because it's a little bit longer in comparison certainly to the 600, there's a bit more inertia, so the force required to change the position of the aircraft i.e. going straight and level to a left turn, is going to be greater. The same for the approach as well. The inertia again is going to be slightly greater. Going to vertical speed mode now. We're going to head down to about 3,500 feet. Fantastic emissives around us here, and look at the effect with the window shades in use as well, especially the ones looking back towards the sunset. And here we are from the outside. We've got the original lights, the 4-bar lights, the retractable lights, but of course the LED ones are another option that you can use too. Amazing sounds, nice bit of wing flex as well as we make our way around to establish on the ILS approach. So you can see here our final approach speeds are going to be 151 knots, which is mega in comparison to the 737-600 and the 700 variants. Working to establish now at 180 knots, go flap 10. And in this instance, we would start to think about reducing speed to say 160 until 4 DME. Primary example there. That's only going to be 9 knots faster than our approach speed. So in that instance, we're likely to need to configure the aircraft beyond 15 degrees of flaps for the final approach. Before that, we need to of course get the gear down to prevent the horn going off for the landing configuration alarm. So we're going to go gear down, flap 15 to go below, say 170 knots, which will allow us to extend below that, down to 160, flaps 15. 146, 151 is our final. And down we go. From the outside then, flaps 25. In fact, we could go to flaps 30 as well. So auto brake 2, we're going to aim to vacate around Bravo Delta, maybe even Alpha Echo further down the runway. We'll see what happens. At this point, we're going to turn the auto throttle off. There's our red warning light, and the autopilot can come off as well. We'll clear the noises, and it's our aeroplane now, throttles and flight controls. Landing at the Mako Simulations Manchester Airport scenery. Really good bit of scenery there. If you haven't got it, well worth taking a look.
500.
Speeds have got to be good for this. Too slow, you risk a tail strike. Same for the go around. If you abort the landing, you risk a tail strike.
300. Approaching minimums. 200. Minimums.
Okay, looking to the end for depth perception.
50. 30. 20. 10.
Holding the flare. Touchdown. Reverse green. A lot faster, a lot heavier. So auto brake 2 there. We're actually using quite a bit of runway, aren't we? We can go to manual brakes. And we can vacate right onto Alpha Echo. Now we can configure with the after landing checklists. If you do want a checklist for this, by the way, folks, head to the website or even search for British Av Geek or 737 checklist on flightsim.to and you'll find one that I've created there for you to use. From the outside then, for those of you who want to replay, I have to say, this has been really, really enjoyable. It's longer, heavier, you require more speed on the approach, therefore you've got to think even further ahead of the aeroplane. And it just feels like an incredible package that PMDG have created here. For those of you who have waited for it, you're going to absolutely love it. Just listen to the sounds. One thing you'll notice at night time is when you are taxiing, if I just slalom around here, you'll notice the nose wheel light, for those of you with the original option, will actually rotate with the nose wheel, which is quite cool. And there we go, folks. We're going to park up on a stand and we're going to shut down the engines. Taxi lights can go off. There we have it, folks. The PMDG 737-800 for Microsoft Flight Simulators, releasing very, very soon indeed. I hope you've enjoyed this short preview video. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you hit like and subscribe as well. Check out the live stream schedule on the channel to find out when we'll be behind the controls of this 800 variant live in the very near future. And the wait is almost over. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Take care.